Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of the Table Podcast. Nick Hand here. Hope you're doing well. Today on the podcast is going to be a lot of fun. We have the owner of Elev8 Nutrition and the founder of the official Iron Bullies with us, joined by someone who's been on the podcast before, Austin Arriola. He's a legend. But this time, Edgar's joining us, Edgar Espino, and it's going to be, the conversation was super awesome. Listen to the whole thing because there's a lot of things that once you get into it, if it takes you a while to get through the podcast, there's a lot of things that I think are great food for thought, especially if you're driven towards being an entrepreneur or starting things or living above the norm. This definitely is a podcast for you. Lots of just unconventional thinking and thinking about things that we really should be thinking about. If you like the podcast, please tell your friends, continue to spread the word, like, rate, comment, review, all those kinds of things. And we will see you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Edgar Espino and Austin Arriola.
First the barricade, now the table. The table.
How many shirt versions do you think that you have?
Probably like 100.
Really?
No, probably like 50, close to 50.
Just
More
different.
than that.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah.
How often are you coming up with new stuff?
Yeah, basically.
Really? You just think? Do you like always thinking like of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was, I forgot who I was talking to, but this was recently. I think it was yesterday actually, because the company Meatheads, they're trying to work out a deal with us through Elev8 to kind of get all of their.
What is Meatheads?
The mover
It's a
one.
movie.
Oh, the movers,
Yeah,
where
it's
it's
a
like,
movie
yeah,
company. So basically, they're trying to with us to see what kind of discount we could offer their employees.
Okay.
So they just came in yesterday, and I was telling them about how, I mean, I'm working around the clock,
Yeah.
even if I'm driving which I'm not supposed to do, but
Yeah.
if I think of an idea, I'll pull over and just kind of just go to work,
Dude, people who are, speaking of driving, not doing things you're supposed to do, dude, somebody, I was on my phone the other day and somebody just like pulled up to my window and they're like flipping me off. They're like, get off your phone. And I was like, the last thing I want to do right now is get off my phone just because you're doing
Oh,
that,
most
you know?
definitely. I
That's
mean,
just how people are.
It's like telling the kid not to do something. It makes them anxious to want to do it more.
It does.
You know?
It's hard not to. Do you have a lot of people that ask you for discounts and stuff like that? Is
You'd
this
be
like
surprised.
a normal thing?
You'd be surprised. man.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, people in general don't want to pay full price for anything.
Which is understandable,
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, that's human, but it sometimes it's kind of disrespectful at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, they expect stuff just for free. Like, come in like, oh, give me a shirt, man. Like, they don't see the work that goes into anything.
don't.
Or they don't value it the same, which, I mean, if you're like supporting something, you're more likely going to get something for free or get stuff thrown in there versus just like walking in and demanding stuff. Like,
Is that tough for you guys, especially because you rely, probably like when you launch something, you're relying on your sphere of influence. You're relying on friends.
sure.
You're relying on family, people that are like a part of the brotherhood, so to speak, or a part of the tribe. Is it hard because a lot of times like it's your friends that you think, come on, hook me up, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
But honestly, and Austin knows this more than anybody because I just communicated to him more often than anybody else.
Yeah.
Just because I feel so close to him
Yeah.
now. But I would say about 95% of my clientele or my customers is not family and friends. It's complete strangers.
But starting off, it
Of
probably
course,
was,
of
right?
course. Yeah, just because like I still have the text message saved when I first launched my brand. And it was basically just a message to anybody who was on my contact list, like, hey, I'm launching this brand. If you guys want to support, submit your pre-orders or whatever. That's once I knew what to do and not so much the original order, which consisted of shirts that I wasn't willing to sell just because the quality was not good.
Have people taken that hustle seriously? Like, I feel like starting off, like when you were starting off the brand,
for sure.
do you feel like people from the get were like, yeah, this is cool?
No, not at all.
Because it's seldom like that for entrepreneurs, I feel like.
For sure. But I mean, even people now who claim to have rocked with me since the beginning really didn't. But I mean, I know that. I don't have to tell them like, no, you didn't. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
Do they know that?
They should. They should. I mean, but at the same time, I don't hold it against anybody because this is not my first rodeo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it is my first on my own that I decided, you know what, it's time to invest in me. And luckily I have, well, not luckily, but just through working on my work ethic, I've decided to like go all in on myself. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's
and
how
you
that
have
came
to.
about.
I mean, at some point you have to, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
And then people find out as you go what you got. You know? Like, I mean, they'll doubt you in the beginning. I think that's just human. And then I think it's interesting, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, what I'm touching on, like the entitlements of those that are around you. It's weird to be human because people will they'll expect things of you that a lot of times they shouldn't. You know what I mean? And it's the same people that expect things of you are sometimes the ones that'll doubt you when you're like trying to start something and trying to go after it. That aren't the the supporters in the beginning until you become something. And it's like, oh no, I know that guy.
Yeah, but you know what? It's also good to know that exists, but be strong enough to rely on yourself, regardless if there's one person or 1,000 people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, I've told Austin, and he's experiencing it himself nowadays, doing his own things or own projects and stuff like that, how frustrating it can be when mentally you're counting on people and they have the tendency to not show up because lack of pay or what have you. Just because, especially here, I don't know if it's a Central Valley thing or a Fresno thing or just where you live thing. But the way I see it is when something gets started, people don't understand how long it's going to take to be able to fund being able to pay people. You know what I mean? Because you'll go broke. Right. And most people don't understand that. That's like having $100 and trying to distribute $100 to 100 people. Yeah. What are you going to be left with? Nothing. Right. You know what I mean? So at the same time, being able to be strong enough to let people know this is going to take time. Yeah, you have to. Bear with me. The payout is coming at some point because I still continue to make posts in regards to that because being an adult, you feel bad because you want to pay people for their dues or for any favor. Like if I personally ask Austin to do something for me, whether I could give him money in exchange for his time or take him out to dinner, I'm going to do it just because that's within me to do so. Yeah. I mean, I don't have friends that'll do that for me. Right. But, I guess I trained myself mentally to be that type of person. Yeah. Just because, like I said, I didn't experience it at all, not with a parent, not with friends. So I feel like I took it upon myself to become that figure that no matter how long it takes, I'm going to pay people what I feel I owe them. Yeah.
Which is something that I hope that not everybody has. I think that's something that's special about you. In the few conversations that I've had, with you up to now, it's very evident that you have a burden in a good way to do right by people, to help people find the payoff or to coach them through the midst of things, to not have to go through the things that you went through, the things that you've experienced. Yeah. Not everybody's like that. A lot of people like to keep their lessons learned to themselves.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it's because I'm a sibling to so many people or other humans because, my parents had 9 kids together. Wow. And it's still super low income. You know what I mean? I mean, it's sustainable enough to eat. Yeah. But past that point, there's no wealth. There's no guarantee in making it in life. So I had to be the one to not be scared of, throwing myself in the fire and coming out the other side successfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't consider myself to be successful just yet, because even with, you know, having the nutrition store and the clothing brand is finally gaining some type of momentum, and with the pre-workout, you know, I always tell myself, you're still nobody,
right?
You know, and not in a negative way. It's just to stay humble and continue to work towards gaining more knowledge, putting our name out there, and not becoming stagnant in any type of way, because I see too many people, they gain some ground, whether they have a huge following or a small following, they get a couple of coins in their pockets, and they somehow feel like they made it.
Right.
And success in a monetary form isn't everything that I'm chasing.
Yeah.
But I am trying to secure some type of good future for myself, for my daughter, for my family, and my close friends, and anybody that really I could impact possibly.
I think because you got to think too, like the money aspect of it, then it becomes the question, is that really success?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It's pretty evident, the ones that are the movers and the shakers in our society, success doesn't start with the thriving business. Like, success is a mentality. It starts here before you ever see it here. You know, that's why I think you get around people who talk about, it's like, oh, you get it. Like you get that, you are successful. Yeah, I know you may not have the money yet, or your business may not be where you want it yet. Yeah. But if you get it here, it's going to be pretty hard to stop you.
Oh, most definitely. And I think I've had more conversations in regards to that topic as of lately. I would say within the last 6 months or so, just because I do, you know what I mean? Like, it's a feeling. Like, nobody could hand you a bag of money and make you feel that feeling. You know what I mean? It's impossible.
Where does it come from then? Where do you find it?
You know, making having made a lot of mistakes, whether it's personal, business wise, even with people, because sometimes wanting to think the best of people could put you in a position where you're being nice across the board, and you're accepting anybody, and that could be a very dangerous situation to put oneself in. Just because you don't want to judge, but when people, when they show who they truly are, when, you know, how people say, like, they show their true colors, then you come to find out, oh, this person was fronting. You know what I mean? And not in a sense to be like, you're a terrible person, I'm going to tell everybody you're a terrible person. It's just, I have to separate myself. Therefore, I have to go about my business without having you per se in my peripheral vision,
which is tough, especially if you're like a good-hearted person. You know what I mean? Or you're like trying to believe the best about people. There's an Oprah does this quote where she talks about that, and she says, "When people show you who they really are, believe them." And I think that there's this tendency, like, there's the good side of it, like when people show you they're good, like to believe that they're good. But I think for people that are compassionate, sometimes it can be difficult, because even when you see that, okay, you're shady, dude, but I don't want to believe that. You know what I mean? And so then you end up running yourself under the bus, so to speak, because you're trying to. It's hard. It's hard
most definitely, especially living in a place that the population isn't as big as some other cities, because word gets around pretty fast.
That's so weird. I think that I used to think that about like this area, to think, oh, it's pretty big, but then you realize, oh, this, once you get like networking with people or meeting people, you realize it's pretty small. Everybody knows everybody, or is connected to, or like, it's really bizarre. Like, it's really bizarre to have that many people in an area and it still be so connected.
I mean, and I think that's why I try to just be mentally strong, because I know where I originate from, you know, if that makes sense. Like, my upbringing wasn't the best. Right.
And talk about that maybe a little bit. So your upbringing was pretty rough, right?
Yeah. I mean, my household was strong because I'm lucky enough to have both my parents to this day. Not necessarily close to them, but I'm lucky in a sense of still having them both be alive, still, you know, be healthy and just in the picture, because I know plenty of people that unfortunately don't have that. But it was just Well, so my origin is Southeast Fresno, to be exact. Butler and Hazelwood. That's the neighborhood where I grew up, and it's literally neighboring to one of the original Bulldog gang affiliators or affiliations or whatever. I don't know if that's the right term, but those are the people that I grew up with. We went to elementary school, saw quite a bit of activity.
Were you a gang member?
I would say affiliated.
Yeah,
not
you ran with the guys that were.
Yeah, I would never want to claim something that would take credit away from the people that actually went through the whole nine. You know what I mean? Right. Just because personally I'm friends with them still to this day, and but I try to guide them in the right direction. Right. Just a few days ago, probably last Thursday, I actually went to go visit one of my friends out in Oakland because he's at a halfway home, and he's still an active gang member, but he just got out of prison. He can't quite come home just yet because he has to finish his time at that halfway home in Oakland. And, I was just telling him, dude, like, I don't see you the way other people see you. Other people might think you're dangerous. Other people might see you for your track record, but I see you as the kid that I remember growing up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so just coming from all that noise, it allowed me to see the good in people and also know that regardless of how other people viewed them, whether they were in the system or just ran the streets or did what they had to do, I came to an understanding that even though I felt the same, I knew somehow I had to do better to teach them in the long run how we could actually overcome all this BS. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's gangbanging isn't tangible. It's an idea that some people formulated, and over time, people adapted that into their life and into their mindset.
With the goal of what? Like, what is the mentality or goal of people that are?
To my understanding, I mean, it's control over, whatever is getting moved around.
Is there not, though, like you talk about the misunderstanding of people that are even living that lifestyle? It seems like the people that I have interacted that come from that background or are part of that life, beyond the gang banging, there is also this sense of belonging or brotherhood that is almost primary.
Oh, most definitely.
You know what I mean? More than causing harm or dominating or ego or power. There is this: we're together, we matter. Despite flaws, despite whatever, despite the lack of things that we have.
Oh, most definitely.
I mean, that's a primary.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that the root of that, I could be wrong, but I think just having so many interactions with so many guys, because there is, some females involved as well, but the majority is all guys. Yeah, and the common trait is lack of a father figure, or a father figure that grew up without a father, was placed in the system, showed them the way to become this or adopt this idealist way of thinking, and they feel love when they're amongst dudes that accept them. Yeah. Because, there's no rich gang members out here. Right. They're all in the slums of any city you go to. That is where gangbanging is located. And even though there's maybe one or two that can make it out and say, you know what? No, that's not true. Like, I made it out, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, that's true for you. Yeah. But what about the rest? Yeah. I mean, the little pennies that are in your pocket in comparison to somebody who's actually wealthy isn't going to make a change, especially because you haven't tried to make a change in your mentality and go back and teach them something different. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. I can't guarantee that I'll succeed because there is hate in a lot of those hearts, and it's just misunderstanding. Right. And so when they see somebody like myself that grew up amongst them that can possibly become successful, that crabs in a bucket mentality kicks in, and they try to drag you down with them because they don't want to see you do better than them. Did
you feel that when you started branching out of the?
I saw it immediately. Even so, going back I moved out of that neighborhood at 12 years old. I was about 11, 12 years old. I moved out to a different neighborhood, still in East Fresno, over actually down the street off of Maple McKinley.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, shit got worse.
Really?
You know what I mean? Because I was a little older. I understood a little more.
Yeah.
And so you get tested, by whatever comes your way. And you have to make a decision whether to become involved or run away and be looked at as a coward or whatever. But, unfortunately, I dove into it because, I feel like the pressure got a hold of me and I just felt forced to somehow be a part of all this nonsense. But we fast forward, past the high school days, a couple years after high school, I ended up joining the military, and dudes that I used to be super close with, or at least around pretty often, started looking at me sideways because anything that involves any type of government entity, they no longer view you as the same. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I remember exactly.
Now you're one of them.
Exactly.
Kind of mentality.
Exactly. I remember the first time I came back into town after boot camp, I was at Champs over at Fashion Fair, and I bumped into probably two to three guys that I used to hang out with, and they asked me where had I been, and I just told them, I just got home from boot camp. And their demeanor went from wanting to dap me up and say what's up to, all right, and just walking away. And to me, it was like, what did I do? Yeah. You know what I mean? All I'm trying to do is change a little bit, I guess, and try to learn some type of discipline because I had none, and instead of running the streets, I want to learn how to earn my dues and, earn my paychecks and all that good stuff because we don't have a clue about how the internal system actually works. Most people that grow up in those environments, I'm not speaking for all, but a lot grow up under welfare, some type of government aid that instead of seeing the reality of that system, they see it as, I don't have to go to work because I'm collecting this, or if I make too much, they're going to take this away from me. And that never made sense to me because, for one, my parents never collected government aid. They showed us how to work hard, whether it was selling some type of fruit door to door, cutting grass, or doing something. We still resided in the same areas as these dudes, but my dad showed us hard work. And that's the one thing that I appreciate my dad for. Yeah. And, he was always accepting of everybody who I hung around with because even though he may have had his own thoughts about the people that I wanted to associate with, he would still let them come over and hang out and have barbecues and stuff like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I consider myself fortunate to have had it that way, regardless of, how, I guess, poor or low income we really were. Yeah.
What do you think keeps people stuck in that place?
Lack of resources, lack of proper knowledge. Because...
So you think it's like it's education awareness type thing? Or?
Yeah, and I
think them just like being around each other too.
For sure. Because all you hear is gossip when you're in those environments. Yeah. Even through wanting to work your way out of those systems, it's misinformed people continuing to misinform.
Well, it's misinformed, and then you wonder like what part of it too is like an apathetic society, because I feel like you have, if you look, you look at your background, Austin, which is probably strongly way diverse from his, yet, correct me if I'm wrong, you see certain mentalities and themes in people that almost like connect, so you'll have people that may be, running the gangs, doing the gang life, but then you have somebody living on a corner, Willow and Herndon or Shepherd and something, and you look at those people, and it's like you couldn't be more diverse in your behaviors, but your mentalities are the same. Oh, yeah. You're both stuck.
I think like it's just being like open. Like I think a lot of just men in general maybe aren't like, they don't talk. They're not able to like actually talk about how they feel about things like amongst each other, you know, and maybe, you know, with a lot of people that he grew up with, they just kind of, you know, put on, it's like a character almost. It's not really them, you know, because who really are they? You know, they probably just get lost in how they grew up and being around those people and how they're acting. That's who they think they are, you know, when deep down that's really not, you know, because I'm sure a lot of them, you know, are good people or do mean well in certain ways, but it's just the way they did grow up or the people they were around, you know, persuaded them to do other things, and it then, you know, just spirals down.
Yeah. And you get stuck, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why even to this day I aspire to inspire young men. Yeah. Because it's just like, dude, we need to get it together. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not cool to, you know, play these girls or act a certain way and cause all this mayhem or cause harm physically to people just because you want to act a certain way. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, I go back and because, like I said, I'm still friends with some of these dudes and I see their timeline, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, and it's funny to me because some of the most hardcore dudes that I remember growing up with, they enjoy fishing, making music, playing with their kids. And I'm just like, dude, that's actually you. Yeah. That's who you are. Right. Like, don't go back to continuing to act a certain way when you're amongst that group of friends because you're putting up this facade. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I made it a point to become better educated and kind of work on my written word because I want for people to understand that regardless of where we come from, we can get educated, we can be considered to be smart and find out where these resources come from so we could somehow build something with it or at least try, you know, because I know for a fact none of the dudes that I grew up with have credit. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, how simple does that sound to a regular person? Yeah. You know, but because you don't strive to even gain that knowledge or walk into a bank and say, hey, how do I build credit? Yeah. Or, you know, take a course on money, how to use it properly into gaining more. Is it a thing where humanity or people perceive not knowing things as weakness? Like to actually, why wouldn't you go and ask? Like, why wouldn't you go and say, hey, can you show me how to do this? That is it because it's weakness? The reason I say that is I've been thinking about this thought lately. Like, I think some people in our society and in our world would rather believe something that's wrong than live with honesty and saying, I don't know. Oh, yeah. Like, I think I think most people would, because we're neurobiologically wired to just know, what is this? Why is this happening? I need to know certainty. I'd rather believe something wrong and have something to cling to than to say, I don't know. I see people do that. I see people do that with spirituality. I see people do it with all kinds of things. Everything. I'd rather believe something wrong so at least I have a stance.
I think most people are like that because there's plenty of times where I can ask him a question on, oh, how do I do this or whatever? And he'll look at me and just be like, honestly, I don't know. Yeah. You know, and I think a lot of people don't have it in them to just say like, I don't have the answer to that. And that's, you know, then you just get a bunch of wrong answers going around and, you know.
And that's kind of what I was trying to say with the misinformed. Yeah. Misinformed continue to misinform other people. So it's kind of like let's say an auntie lives next to me. Yeah. And I ask her a question. She really doesn't know the answer, but I'm trusting her because she spoke her words into my mind and I believed it rather than to go out and search the actual answer. Because this is how these neighborhoods are ran. I mean, I've told my mom recently, like, dude, you guys don't really know much, to be honest.
You're running on a false reality, right?
And it's
false information.
And it's okay to realize it at 50 years old that, you know what? I believed wrong information my entire life. Yeah. I want to wake up. Let me wake up. So let me go search or at least knock on doors and find out for myself. Because one of the things that I personally feared before jumping on this opportunity to buy Elev8 was, am I going to know how to run it? I didn't grow up around supplements or the gym, but I have tools. I mean, Austin has become one of my best friends in the last few months. And to me, he's a tool because he has information that I don't retain, you know, or that I didn't have. So now when I hear him talk to certain customers, I'm like, you know what? That's starting to make sense. But I'm not just trusting that information. I'm actually jumping on a computer, looking it up, and making sure that that information is correct. Or if there's updated information, we're gaining that information now to then pass on to our customers, because misinforming people is completely the wrong thing to do just to gain a buck. You know, $1 is not worth me lying to you. I think my word goes beyond and is more valuable to you at any point if I even tell you, you know what, you don't need that. And I can make $0 in a day, but I would much rather be honest with you. Because, you know, like, too many people use the cliche of, you know, my word is my bond or whatever, but they don't mean it. Because if they had an opportunity to screw you over, they would. And I honestly don't feel like I have that in me anymore, just because I've always viewed that as a weakness rather than being able to turn around and laugh with my friend and be like, look, bro, we just suckered him out of his money. Because for all I know, that could have been money for his children or money for a bill that he really needed to pay. But because I wanted that money so bad, I was willing to lie my way into earning that.
And it's such like short-term business, you know, because I think you do something like that and, you know, this person does take your word for it and use this supplement or whatever it is and it doesn't work. I mean, they're gonna know, like, this guy lied to me, or then they're either not gonna come back to your business, they're not gonna talk to you, they're gonna go to another business, they're gonna tell people that they were lied to. I mean, it's not worth it, you know.
Well, it takes more. It seems like there is a lack of when you just look in society, it's almost like a misprioritizing of value. If you don't value honesty, it's going to be hard to put in the work to actually find it.
Oh, for sure.
So, like, I think there's people that are crooks and crooked and trying to deceive. But then I also think there is this large majority that has gotten their information from the crooked, and they become crooked not because they want to, but because they literally think the information that they have been given is correct. So there's no hunger for honesty to say, is this true? And what's crazy to me is, because I find myself doing it, you'll even defend things that you don't really know are true or not. So even like the values that you were instilled to you as a kid, or whoever like was your mentor, person that you looked up to, and those values that they instill in you, you received those, like you're saying, from your aunt, because I should be able to trust you. You're someone who has given me food, shelter, comfort, all these kinds of things that help me as a human place my trust in someone else. So I take what you say as truth. But what's weird is regardless if it's truth or not, you'll find yourself in your current state defending mentalities that you don't even know are accurate and not being willing to explore it. You see that in politics. You know what I mean? With conservatives or liberals. And wait, are we stopping and like thinking about what we're talking about? Or we just know that's not true just because, you know, it goes against whatever you know. And I find myself doing it, watching TV shows and thinking, well, I don't think that there's no way that's possible. Like, well, what if it is possible? Like, are you willing to stop and consider and look at the facts and
be wrong?
And be wrong. Or even worse, come to the road where you say, oh, I don't know where I stand on this. I know I don't fully possess what I thought I believed, and I don't fully possess that, so I'm stuck in the limbo of I don't know.
For sure. And I think that the whole world is ran that way. You know what I mean? Because they may target a certain group or a certain idea that is so wrong to the person that is supposed to be correct that they forget that they too are taking part in that type of mentality, activity, you know, information that they're feeding people. It's kind of like CNN and Fox News. Pick one. You know what I mean? Because if you run with Fox, CNN can't be right. Or vice versa. And it's the same thing out here in the streets. You know what I mean? If what you think I'm telling you is right, and I'm trying to force you to believe that what I'm telling you is right.
Yeah.
You're going to eventually cave and agree. But to me, I just don't have that. I just don't have that type of mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like to think that people should be allowed to think what they want to believe.
Yeah.
And go with what makes them the most comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, to a degree.
Well, even like the amount of people that we see that can come in and maybe they come into the store and they try saying that Edgar should do his clothes this way, or he should run them this way, or you guys should do this with the pre-workout. And I mean, you know, when you actually, you know, look at them, if, you know, you're not someone who's doing that or has experienced that or knows someone that's done it or anything, I mean, what does your word really mean? You know, because if you haven't been through it, you don't know what those people are going through. You know, it's like asking a homeless man how to make $1 million. Like, you can't take that advice. You know, I mean, there might be things you can, you know, pick and choose, but, you know, their word's not gospel.
If you haven't been where I'm at, how can you coach me on how to get through what I'm going through?
Yeah. That's just a narrative. You know what I mean? And I think that the reason why I began to be so strong in my beliefs is because even though I don't practice, let's say, putting my feet in a chapel or a church, I'm connected with God. And I feel that he gives me my visions on a daily basis. Because even when I'm wrong, like let's say I woke up in a bad mood, whether it was the food I ate or the thoughts that I went to sleep with, I know that. As a human, I know that the way that I'm currently thinking is going to be bad for whatever it is that I'm trying to produce. Whether it's a conversation that I strike with Austin, yourself, or anybody who I encounter. Because if I continue to, how should I say, put out this energy into the world in a negative regard, that's exactly how people are going to view me. But now I'm grown enough, and I think I'm finally maturing to the point where when I wake up in a bad mood, let's just say that I could correct it through prayer or just putting positive things in my mind because I YouTube a video that is spreading a positive message into my mind, because this is just a practice that I decided I wanted to adopt into my daily life. You know what I mean? Whether it's 5:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 a.m., whenever it is that I wake up, I'll put it on, I'll play it during my shower, and I'll actually absorb it because I want to feel like anything that I touch or that I do, or even any conversation that I have with other humans, is very honest. And it doesn't have to be things that you want to hear, because sometimes we have to be told, you know, the least thing that we want to hear. Because I know personally there is days where I feel very lazy, or I've even seen or have observed that that type of aura, whether it's with Austin or one of our other friends. And I'll bluntly tell them, dude, you're just making up excuses. You know what I mean? Like, let's not do that, because I feel responsible for letting you know that. Whether you want to like me after that or go talk crap about me because I told you what you needed to hear, that's on you. I just feel like as a friend, it is our responsibility to be able to tell you, hey, correct yourself. You know what I mean? And it's not, let me show you how to act. It's listen, digest it, and then seek out what you think that means to you.
But to me, that's the essence of good coaching. There's difference, and you see it whether it be in religion or in certain social circles. You talk about people coming in and giving their opinion on what they should do. There's a difference between desiring to, or wanting to be a helpful coach and wanting to be in control.
Exactly.
And some people really just want to be in control. They want to tell you what to do because they think they are superior to you based upon their knowledge or understanding of a certain topic or thing. It's different when somebody is like, I'm trying to just help, you know what I mean? And at the end of it, like, just stop and think about it. I think and I think that's the cool thing even of what you're saying, Edgar, about spirituality and things like that. We're all on such our own independent journey, and there is no journey that looks identical. And I think the more that we can allow each other to be on a journey and to realize that I'm on one too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To me, that's the con of religion, is that you somehow, because you feel like you know something, are superior to those around you. You know, that you're enlightened to a degree that if people don't believe like you, then they have to be wrong and they're outside of your box. And I was having a conversation actually on the podcast with my cousin and brother recently. My cousin mentioned something. I was like, that's so true. He's talking about how even with whatever belief system you have, whether it be with religion or whatever, a lot of that is coming from things that we are trying to interpret from ancient stories that have been told, have been passed down, documents that have been written in certain languages, and we're changing. So, and then at the point that you read it, it's kind of like reading a book. You have to make an interpretation or a guess about what you're reading, and so it has to be processed through the imperfect human mind that has learned to perceive based upon your experiences and what you feel and what you've seen. So then could it come to the realization that all the things that I know for sure, at the very best, it's an interpretation.
Exactly.
At the very best, it's your opinion based upon your journey and the road that you've walked.
Sure.
So that's why I think there has to be a liberty to say, the more as humanity we could get comfortable with just saying, honestly, I don't really know. This is where I'm at right now, and this is what I think right now, and I have convictions, and I'm doing my best to live according to those. But at the end of that, I still can't say that I know for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the best place I think we could be at.
Exactly. Even, you know, having served in the military and observing what's in the Middle East. I wasn't everywhere. I didn't go to Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran or any of the places that are considered to be, you know, dangerous. But I was there. So I got to observe what it looked like. And in my mind, I question, why are we still here? You know what I mean? Because somebody's idea was so strong and they were so stubborn in that idea that hundreds of thousands or millions of people have died because of this one person's idea that they have to be right. And it's so hard to let go of that idea that we're even sending some of our own people to go get murdered out there. But they call that a sacrifice or they call that serving your country. And I don't see anything wrong with having a military because everybody needs protection to a degree. But is it really necessary?
Well, you dig into intention and, you know, all the reasons that you're told versus the real reasons and the reasons you can't know that maybe
because,
do exist.
You know, even meeting people at the very premature stages of joining the military. So there's, I don't know if you're familiar or not, but there's this office, and they're everywhere around the country, but it's called MEPs, and that's basically where you go swear in. Yeah. And you bump into people who are so thirsty to go pull a trigger or to go to war. And thinking back as an adult, because even though I was 21 going on 22 when I joined, you're technically an adult, but you're still a child. Right. Or at least you have a child's mentality still. I remember all of those conversations, and I think to myself now, wow, those kids, their lives must not be good at home because they're so eager to potentially go die. You know what I mean? And I wasn't fearful of that because even as a civilian, as a 17, 18, you know, even 16-year-old, I got shot at about 7 times out here in Fresno. Wow. And luckily I never got hit. But, you know, in certain incidents, a couple of my friends got shot. You know, unfortunately, a few passed away. And I have to live with that because I saw it physically and emotionally had to digest it and be strong enough to say, okay, this happened. What do we do now? Yeah. And I recall the last person that I was semi-close to, attended his viewing, and knew how he got killed. And, you know, even through friends, we knew who did it. But even with that information, his own biological dad basically said, don't do anything. He's not coming back. And whether that impacted everybody in the circle or just myself, it helped me realize, you know what? His dad's right. What are we doing here? You know, unfortunately, he got killed in that incident by some people who obviously didn't think this through. Yeah. And he's never going to speak. He's never going to give a hug anymore. He's never going to be able to smile or shake a hand. And I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Yeah. And it's not out of fear, because I don't say this with pride, because I'm not proud to be this stubborn or to have this ego. But I remember calling dudes out like, dude, if you think I'm soft, like, run that fade. Yeah. You know, which is like, you know, put your knuckles up and catch it. Because my thing is, even to this day, as a grown man, I don't fear another man. Yeah. I don't care how big, how strong, whatever. I just don't. I feel that confident in myself. And that's not a reason for me to train or to go take boxing lessons or anything like that. But for me, it's just, as a man, you have to feel comfortable in your shoes, you know? Yeah. And I had to give them that understanding, like, hey, I just don't want to be a part of this. Like, I want to lead a normal life. I don't know if back then I didn't know if I was going to have children, but I have a 7-year-old now. I don't want her to grow up without a dad. Yeah. You know what I mean? And nowadays, that's why I'm this way. Yeah. Because a 7-year-old, and every year before that I have been involved, she has softened that heart of who I thought I used to be. And I'm not afraid to express myself in that way, because, like I said, I'm comfortable in my shoes. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Has it always been easy for you?
As far as what?
To be comfortable in your shoes?
No.
You talk about, you know, not fearing people. I'd imagine somehow, in some ways, that would be probably a huge asset of yours in moving out of the...
Oh, for sure.
The way that you were raised.
I mean, I think for me, it wasn't easy, but because I knew I could survive outside of my element, which means, you know, I was the first one to get kicked out of my parents' house, and not fear what I had to do in order to survive, whether it was to pay a bill, pay rent, buy my food, whatever, go to work on time, right? I never felt the itch to even ask people for favors, not even my parents. You know what I mean? And it was one of those things, because I think even as a kid, I felt like, whether it was a gift from God to be a hustler, or a natural given talent to just speak and be a salesperson, like, I could do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I saw the struggles of my reality since I was like 5. You know what I mean? And I acknowledged it, because even when my dad would pick oranges or lemons or grapefruit or whatever fruit was at the season, growing at my house when we used to live in the neighborhood, he would ask us, like, hey, go sell them, like, we need money. And I would be the only one that was down to go knock on these doors as a 5-6-year-old. Yeah. Just like, hey, you know, I'm selling these lemons, or I'm selling these oranges, or whatever. So I knew I was going to survive one way or another, because I got myself into trouble. Yeah. I obviously sold things that aren't necessarily legal to just get by. And when I found out fairly quick that there was no future in that, I just decided, you know what, man, like, there's no loyalty in the streets. There's no loyalty in these hustles. Somebody's always trying to come after you or hurt you or is jealous of you, whatever. Like, this is just not the way you're going to make it. Yeah. So you might as well go out into the world and try to explore it and go figure it out. Yeah. You know, because from everything that I've experienced through my lifetime, I've never felt uncomfortable going out to eat by myself or walk the streets by myself, no matter what neighborhood I'm in. You know what I mean? And that's just, I don't know if that's weird, but I would be completely comfortable plugging in some earphones in my phone and just listening to music and walking down any neighborhood, because I wasn't trying to be called out. I just wanted to be human. And I just wanted to feel free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think I earned my freedom through, you know, learning. I went to jail once, and that one time was a clear picture. This is not for me.
I want to end up.
You know what I mean? And as soon as I got out, I just never looked back, because I could still remember the smell. You know, I found out who told on me, and that's why I say there's no loyalty in the streets, because it's the people that claim to be the hardest to cave the first. Yeah. And they claim it. I don't claim anything. You know what I mean? And I go out and say it, but that's just me being me. You know what I mean? And I just don't feel the need to have to prove myself to anybody. I prove myself by doing good things, by being productive, by trying to gain more knowledge, and by earning the respect of people who I look up to and trying to learn from them. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, people who have gained any type of success tell you to get close to people who you want to be like. Yeah. And that's, looking back, I don't want to be like anybody that I grew up with. Yeah. And that's just the truth. Yeah. Because I'm trying to help out everybody who I grew up with. Right. I don't want to be like them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I mean, my story, I heard it 100 times when I was, you know, volunteering at juvenile hall. From 2016 to 2018, I volunteered and mentored anywhere from 20 to 25 incarcerated youth. And the story was the same. But somehow interpretation plays a part. Yeah. What do you want for your life? Yeah. Like, don't think that being hard or acting reckless is going to get you anywhere. Yeah. And regardless of the story and what they were trying to present themselves as, I was able to chip away at it and get to the bottom of it. Why are you really acting this way? Yeah. Because I know you don't want the struggle. Right. From what I'm hearing, you want to be loved. You want to have a household. You know, you want to live a life, actually, outside of these gates.
Do you think it's like the environment that keeps them into it? Oh, mostly?
For sure.
I mean, into that mindset. I mean.
Oh, most definitely, because it's the difference between having a positive role model and a negative one. If it's a role model figure, but they're your role models, that's who you want to be like, and that's a negative person, and they're feeding you their information, what do you think you're going to end up being? Right. You know what I mean? And
well, you become somebody that you're not and somebody that you don't want to be. So it seems like too, like you say you're chiseling down, you're almost getting down to, okay, this is what you've been told to be, and these are the things that you've picked up that you feel like you're supposed to be. But let's get down past that to find out who you are. Yeah. You know, and realizing that it's only when you find that and are willing to stay true to that. To me, that's what I see in both of you guys. Yeah. The willing to be my authentic self, to do the things that are kind of in my own personal soul and heart to do. Yeah. Even if it's hard, even when I got to claw and scratch at it and, you know, hustle when everybody else isn't, or be doubted by people. I'd rather do that and have an opportunity to become what I'm supposed to become.
Because regardless, you're going to have to work hard. And, you know, no matter what you do, like, you're not going to become successful or do anything by just, like, you find something and you make a bunch of money or whatever your idea of success is. Like, you're gonna have to work hard. So I think doing something that you enjoy, doing something you're passionate about, doing something where you're around people you enjoy being around, I mean, that's important. Because even if you don't become this super successful and you just made a living, or, you know, whatever your definition of making a living is, like, you still had fun with it. Yeah. And I think people take that for granted.
Well, it's like, then at that point, it's like we said earlier, what is success? Yeah. At some point, you do have to decide I think people either chase money or they chase, you know, happiness and contentment and fulfillment. And the thing about the people that chase money is you'll get it, but then it's hard to keep it.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got that pressure of what you build, you must maintain. But the people that prioritize that sense of purpose, passion, it seems like eventually the money will come. Like you can't, eventually it'll be there. You can't stop that.
Because you're in training the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, which in essence is what makes it seem like you were gifted. You know, naturally gifted.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you were just born that way.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you're an overnight success.
Yeah.
But you were working at it the whole time.
Yep.
That's why I always advise people. I don't like giving advice, but I tell people you can't expect to be good at something if you don't practice it.
Yeah.
That's like you doing this podcast today in comparison to your first one,
right,
or your attempts prior to that.
Yeah.
I mean, the setup wasn't the same. No, the lighting wasn't the same. Different. The sound, everything. But people expect to be just as good as you because they just say it.
Right.
You know, that's
in anything, right? Like, I can do that. And then it's like.
And I mean, I get, it doesn't bug me, but I find it interesting because people reach out to me now and they're just like, hey, man, I'm thinking about starting this clothing company. Yeah. It's not anything like yours, but I just wanted to ask if you could help me. And I tell them, sure. Yeah. But this is what it takes. Yeah. These are the steps. This is how much money it's going to cost. If you want a raggedy logo, make it yourself. Yeah. But if you want something that's going to be remembered, invest into it and actually have it made professionally by a designer so it could look a certain way and hold weight. Yeah. But once they find out all those costs, they're just like, oh, I'll let you know, man. Yeah. I'll get to it. Maybe when I finish school. Right. And I'm just like, dude, what? Yeah, like that's not a good answer. Right. You know what I mean? And I think you just wasted my time. Yeah. Because now whether it was a text message, a DM, or a phone call, or even a face-to-face interaction, you literally wasted my time. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think that's
people,
why
they don't want to put in the work.
Exactly. And I think that's why people gain the right to charge for their time, which is something that I'm working towards because I don't want to do anything for free anymore. You know what I mean? Unless it comes out of the kindness of my heart to do so. You know, for instance, back in December, we did a trade-off. So we were trying to figure out how to do a blanket drive because my daughter was 6 at the time, and she doesn't like seeing homeless people. Yeah. And I don't either. I don't think anybody does. Right. Some people judge them. I don't. That's just me. But it was in her heart that she wanted to give these people blankets because obviously it's cold in the wintertime, and she wanted to provide some type of snack or water or what have you. So given the support base that I know we have, I, just announce it like, hey, we're going to be collecting blankets on this week. If you guys could please donate, like, much appreciated. Not exactly sure what I could give you guys in return, but we'll work something out. Yeah. And long story short, I ended up doing 1-for-1. So basically, you turn in a blanket, I give you one of my T-shirts because more than likely you could find a $5 blanket and you're earning a $27 T-shirt in return. So it's a pretty good deal, right? And that's just one of those things that, like, it literally just hit my heart because it came from my child, right? And I like doing stuff like that because at the end of the day, I don't want her to be rigged. I don't want her to feel like, oh, you need to care for yourself. I just care about me. Like, no, if you could give, but also don't have the necessity to showcase it, because if it's coming from your heart, just do it. Yeah. And if people find out, good. And if they don't, good. Yeah. Because you did it. Yeah. And you have nobody to answer to but yourself and God. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
that's the stuff that matters too. I mean, people talk about it like what really matters is when no one's looking, but it really is true. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the stuff that's internal, the motives, right? The intentions. Yeah. Those that's the to me, that's the secret sauce. That's what makes or break. Like you can fake it with people, but at the end of the day, like you can't fake, the results aren't going to come.
No.
You know, like you may get short-term results and everybody may know your name for a little bit, but you're not going to have that, because what I think we're all looking for, we know it's more than money.
Yes.
We're looking for an intrinsic sense of fulfillment that like, I'm doing what I was put here to do, or I'm leaving my footprint, or it matters.
Yeah.
You know, like that I'm here. Like, I think like that's the thing that we're ultimately searching for.
Definitely.
And you can't make that happen without being your authentic self.
Yeah.
You can't fake that.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, I wouldn't want to live to 80 or 90 knowing that I didn't try to help. You know what I mean? But that's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
And that's just me wanting to find out who I really am.
Yeah.
And because there's even areas of my life that I'm still trying to work on.
Right.
Just like everybody else.
Everybody.
But being able to identify and actually call yourself out on it, and not necessarily in public, but to somebody that you think needs to know.
Yeah.
I think that's important too, because your conscience will beat you.
Yeah, yeah.
No matter how strong you think you are.
Yeah.
Your physicality, none of that matters. Your mindset is key. And, you know, it's not something that I think too many people talk about. But for me, I know one of my areas where I'm trying to be better at is be a better dad, a more patient dad, a dad that doesn't yell so much.
Yeah.
And just because I know that feeling. And I think that I get that trait from my mom.
Yeah.
And I don't want to blame her for it because it's my practice at the end of the day. But I remember back in October, I dropped out of Fresno State because I was going to, you know, I was pursuing my business degree. But I thought to myself, you're already in business, dude. Like, how much is this actually going to help you? And I'm not saying that for anybody to believe that way. But to me, I knew that I had something on my hands that I needed to work on, and then that I needed more time for.
Yeah.
But I also needed more time for my parenting, because having school, having a business, trying to make it work, trying to make money, and being an entrepreneur, you know, it's not easy.
Right.
And the pressure of everything basically would backfire to my parenting.
Yeah.
And I hated that side of me, because I remember on many incidents yelling at my kid for no reason.
Yeah.
And I would catch myself. And afterward, when she was happy and I would put her to bed, and I would still think to myself, look, these demons are getting to you, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's a personal thing, but at the end of the day, it matters that you fix this, because you could hide it from the rest of the world, but you can't hide it from yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember I finally owned up to it, and I told a counselor about, or not a counselor, but a psychologist about this. So I was just like, I don't know if it's just school, but the pressure of life is getting to me.
Yeah.
So I need to take a step back, leave this for right now, and go work on that. Because if I don't fix that, none of this matters at all. I could have a PhD, and if I'm not a good dad, I'm not going to be proud of myself. You know what I mean?
Well, you miss out on what matters, and it's
exactly.
like, that's so human, you know, like you get into it. I think we talked last time, we were talking last time, you get into it because you got into it partially just for your daughter's sake, so she would have this different life. But then it's easy to lose sight of what you got in it for, and then it becomes about something else.
Yes.
You know, your ego gets involved, the opinions of other people get involved, and it's like you do need these timeouts to say, why am I in it?
Exactly.
You know, is my motivator right? I'm just a firm believer that I think that those matter.
Yeah.
Like people who, I don't know, I feel like people who get into it to prove something to other people, those people never last in the long run.
No.
And if they do, they're not happy.
No.
You may have, I mean, you look at these people like I'm showing all the haters. If that is your greatest motivator to show everybody, you're still going to have a miserable life, because when you have the money, you're still living with this chip on your shoulder. You haven't resolved the
It's
inner
the same
workings
thing with
of
like going to the gym. Like if you're just going to, get attention from other people or compliments, or because you want to look like a certain way that they think that other people are going to think of them better or whatever. Like it's not going to be long term.
It's so not.
I mean, any bodybuilder, for instance, or someone that, does the competitive sport or whatever, them not doing it for themselves, they'll never be a good bodybuilder. And you can see those people right away, because if social media weren't here, tomorrow, would they still be into it? No.
Right.
Like they're just trying to do it to, whether it's attention, whether it's, they want to get girls or whatever the case may be. It's not the right reason.
No.
Like you don't wake up and force yourself to eat 6 times a day for fun. You don't go to the gym 5-6 times a day. You don't do cardio, 5 times a week. You just don't do that because, for other people. Like it has to be something you want to do.
Yeah, it has to be something internal. And because people that are in that disposition, it's like they don't seem like happy people. Like genuinely happy people. What do you and then at one point is it enough?
Yeah.
At what point are you
Satisfied.
Satisfied. At what point are you big enough, muscular enough, cut enough? Like at what point is it? You never are. Yeah. So then it's this target that is your happiness is always prolonged.
Yeah.
I can never fully be. It's always.
I think people almost envy when they see a happy person. You know what I mean? Because, like for me,
because they're everything that you wish you could be.
Exactly. And regardless of what it looks like, you know what I mean? A dude could be dancing on the street.
Yeah.
And you may think he's crazy, but really he's just happy.
Yeah.
And you wish you had the courage to put that energy out into the world, but you're so afraid to be laughed at that you're not willing to go through with a feeling. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, it might surprise some people, but there's plenty of days where I just feel like walking outside. Yeah. And I don't have to have my phone. Yeah. I don't have to have anything that connects me to the rest of the world. It's just me in the moment, whether it's daytime looking at the birds or at nighttime looking at the sky. Yeah. It's just kind of questioning like what our purpose here is. Yeah. Because regardless of what I've attained through social media or through the brand, like none of that matters at the end of the day, because I will continue to work on it. Like I said in the beginning, whether one person wears it or whether 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people, it's all about how I feel. Yeah. And that's when I get the most creative. You know what I mean? Because when I'm at my happiest, I can tell people like exactly what it is that I'm feeling. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's no, like, you can't buy that. No. You just, like, there's no price tag to happiness. Yeah. Some people, there's very successful people out there preaching that, you could buy stuff that makes you happy. Yeah, you can, if those are your drivers. But at the end of the day, really look internally. Are you actually happy? Right. Are you able to put that feeling out into the world and make other people feel what you feel, or at least inspire them enough to get a step closer to that feeling in their own way? Just because he wants to drive a Lamborghini doesn't mean I need to drive one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I want to drive my Honda and that is plenty for me, that's what it is. Right. You know what I mean? There's just no reason to apply pressure onto other human beings to want what you want. No, yeah. There's just...
and it's almost... I think that there's probably a lot of subconscious reasons why we do that, but I think it's wanting to feel secure that the decisions we're making for ourselves are right. So we want other people to be like us. I think that we don't... I think it's the thing that you're talking about, that we'll try to keep people back because them living a life of quote unquote freedom or authenticity makes me feel bad about the life that I'm living that is not free and authentic, So I'd rather shame someone for the life they're stepping out to live than actually let myself off the hook to become the person that I want to be. I think that there's like all of those, kinds of themes and things that kind of play into it. And at the end of the day, most people are we're very our society is very nearsighted in what it really means to be happy. You know, we're result oriented now, so the things that we get don't last long.
Yeah.
You know, if I want it tomorrow, it's probably not going to last as long as the thing that took 2 months, 2 years to construct. A house that's put together in 2 weeks versus a house that was put together in 2 months is probably going to have some things about it that make it a little bit more stable and have longevity. You know, it's like, because even talking about the work that went into it, talking about even like the money thing, it's like, money, I mean, you can buy things that can make you happy today, but how long will that last you?
Well, and it comes back to, are you just buying it because for your haters to show, look, this is what I have? Or do you want a Lamborghini because you like Lamborghinis and you just want to go fast? I mean, I know nothing about cars. So to me, it's never been like would I want a nice car? Like, that's cool. But like, it's not like the end all be all with me.
It's
like,
it's so fleeting too. You know, I mean, you guys have experienced it, I'm sure. It's like the moments that I've had or the accolades and things that I've accomplished, it's awesome. But then the next day it's gone, you know? So it's like, you think about somebody that wins a great award. Well, you won the award. Everybody celebrated you last night. Now you got to wake up in a hotel room by yourself and it's just you and it's you again.
Oh, for
so
sure.
what are you going to do? Now what? Now that you have the car, now that you have the relationship, now that you have the thriving, if that was it, now what?
Oh, for sure. And you could relate that to anything. You know what I mean? Because I know this is like, I don't even know where we are in the topic, but what I'm saying is one of my long-term goals is to write a book for guys.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is to basically go based off of my experience with like anything from my childhood to being with a girl, not knowing how to love, feeling a certain type of way, insecurity, all that stuff. Because nobody wants to admit, you know what? I don't know how to pick up a chick, or I don't know how to love a woman properly because nobody told me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I honestly am just going with the motion of life, what it's presenting to me without even being connected to is this truly what I want? Yeah. Because I know for me, every relationship I've been in has been jacked up because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Yeah. And even to this day, I question myself, like, you know, if you're going to commit to something, make sure that you're feeling it and you're not just afraid to hurt this person's feelings because you honestly just don't like them like that. Yeah. Or whatever it is that you're feeling, be open to it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that is the only way you're going to be happy with yourself. Right. And I think having a daughter also plays a role in that because, you know, she's 7. She's starting to be curious. I mean, just yesterday or 2 days ago, she was just like, yeah, a boy at school told me he liked me. And I was like, what? Dun, dun, you know what I mean? But you're talking about a 7-year-old. Yeah. And at the moment, it's shocking, but it's very real at the same time. Because as a father, you have to be willing to step in and say, hey, I know that you feel these little funny emotions, but just know that it's going to happen several times and with several people. But we're going to talk about this as you progress in life so you know when somebody actually loves you or if they're just trying to do something with you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's a conversation my parents never had with me. Yeah. I think I can't speak for every Hispanic household, but I think it's a topic we're very afraid of. I don't know why.
I just think most people in our world don't know how to have conversation. Mm-hmm. We don't create space for it. Yeah. We don't. Yeah. We have small talk. We have chit chat. For sure. We you know, publicize our opinions, but like conversation.
Yeah. Like opening up and
talking so that I can listen and like listen for the sake of learning, not just for keeping.
Probably because you're vulnerable, though. I think like a lot of people don't want to
nail on the head, dude. Vulnerability, but that's the birthplace of change. If you can't get to, it's like the reoccurring thing with this combo. If you can't get to that, vulnerability is I don't know it all. The vulnerability is I don't have it all together. Vulnerability is you might get too close to me and see my humanity, see the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain and realize that I'm not everything that you want me to be or think that I am.
Yeah.
I'm just trying.
Oh, for sure. And
know?
being able to say that is so powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Because,
it is powerful.
Because it's liberating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you consider yourself, a pastor?
It's one of the things I do, yeah.
Yeah. So even being a pastor, some people may think you have it all figured out or that you walk with God every single step.
Yeah.
But you're also human.
Yeah.
So there's room for error, plenty of it. But if, let's say, you convince yourself that you are perfect and that you are with God in every single step.
Yeah.
Even when you make a mistake, you will try to retract back to that perfection because you're neglecting the human aspect.
That's the bottom line.
Who you are.
I've said for years, because depending on the day, like what I'm doing, whether it be in the church sphere, podcast, there's things that I do in film or different things. When I'm doing those things, I've always said one of my greatest fears is the pedestal. This idea that because I push new thoughts or ideas or principles of spirituality to help hopefully all of us move our lives forward, that somehow the viewer or listener would take away my humanity. That just because I understand or publicize certain concepts or ideas, that I am perfect in all of those things. I think that that's one of the most terrifying places to be, even in the public eye. This pedestal where because of your position, people expect something out of you that actually strips you of your humanness.
Oh yeah, the amount of people that like reached out to me after the first podcast, you know,
Yeah.
that obviously knew you, and it's like you can tell that the way they view you too, because they might not have like actually had a conversation with you. They just hear you, and I know you guys do like the video, you know, all of that. So they might just watch it on their phone and see that, you know, of you. They forget that you're human. You know,
to me, and I think whatever you're doing, especially when you're someone who is a thought leader or someone, you know, that works in spirituality or church or things like that, politics even, I think that there's different spheres where it's like you understand it because it's human. Like I think that we try to put people in a box so that we can understand, but then there is also this, you got to allow people to show you who they are. And I think that as an individual, then here's the challenge. The challenge is when then you have influence to fight to be who you are and not who people want you to be.
Exactly.
Not to feel the pressure to jump through the hoop or maintain an image, because people do it. It's like you get this thing and then there's assumptions, and then I'm maintaining my reputation of what you think, and then I think that that's how people throw their lives away. I really do. I think that that's how people ruin their lives, make stupid decisions because they're not living authentically.
Yeah. You're not being who you actually are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've the funny thing about being in the spotlight, or I don't feel that personally, just because I still think I'm a regular person, but I do get approached quite a bit. I mean, I've been approached at a restaurant, at the gas station, at Walmart, random things. But I try to be 100% who I am with everybody. Yeah, just because I don't need you to have this false image of who you think I am. If I listen to a certain type of music, I'm going to put it out there. Yeah. If you don't like it, that's on you. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I would much rather not hide who I am, because I remember when I first launched Iron Bullies, I would try to censor myself. I would try to do things with so much positivity that was to a degree overly positive, if that makes sense. Yeah. And,
not real.
And exactly, because it's impossible to maintain a positive outlook on every single thing, even when things are going wrong. And I remember about a year into having the brand, I got separated, with the mother of my child. And I didn't know who I was anymore. Yeah. And I remember hearing that I don't know if it was Les Brown or I forget the other motivational speaker, but it was one of those guys. And I remember them speaking on this subject, because you do semi lose your identity when somebody so important, no longer takes a role in your life.
Yeah. I think it's different too and challenging, like in the scope of what we do and in the world of social media, especially because you bring up the idea of the concept of censorship, right? Like censoring yourself. I feel like there's a part of censorship that may damage your authenticity depending upon your audience. But then there's also censorship that seems like good business.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like depending
for
on
sure.
what a doctor needs to censor him certain aspects of his lifestyle or self. You know what I mean? You don't want to see who he's hanging out with and going to dinner with and maybe what he's watching, or like there's certain areas because of the field that it's like, I feel like it needs to be, it's just good business
for sure.
to be censored.
Yeah.
But then, and this is where I think that I'm still struggling with it and trying to figure out for myself what it's going to be. But then at what point though, you got to decide then what do you censor? What don't you censor? At what point? I think that I think our world has to realize that social media isn't real life.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
What you see of someone, no matter how great or how bad it is, on either side of the fence, it's not real life. There's no way that you could fully understand a person by just scrolling through their social media account. You can learn a lot, but it's still not real life. Like
Especially
I think like fundamentally,
Instagram.
especially
it's
Instagram.
It's the stuff that you want people to see. Like imagine if there was like something that followed us around that like just posted 4 random things a day of you, and it was whatever it wanted to post. Like everyone's feeds would look crazy, you know? Like it wouldn't I mean, it would probably reflect who you really are at that point, but if you're just putting out what you want people to see, that's why you can't, get too caught up in
when the lines are blurred, right? Like, so it's like, and it's too, I mean, I think about it like people with their kids, like if you're an influencer and you post photos of your kids, you could be potentially exploiting them. Like they are not choosing to be on your account. Yet when you do that, you're putting them in the public eye in a way that who knows who is looking at these photos of your children. If you're not an influencer and the only people that follow you are your family, you're using it for a different tool. You're just showing what your kid did today. So it's like there's all these blurred lines in the medium that is kind of difficult.
Oh yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with there's no guideline to how to use these tools.
No.
You know what I mean? So the interpretation, we fall back into interpreting how we do things, how we do business. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I was trying to get at with that whole conversation, because when your mind isn't in the same place that it once was, you don't even know how to go about making a simple post. You know what I mean? And even your words are almost being forced just out for the sake of staying relevant. And I don't have that problem anymore because I don't feel the same amount of pressure in a sense of just posting just to post. Now even the way that I market my brand, I don't even think I'm doing it the right way, to be honest. And that's coming from me. You know what I mean? But that's only because I look at other brands that are relative to, let's say, the same realm, and the way that they post is completely different. Let's say Austin's wearing that shirt. All their advertising is that shirt. My mind goes somewhere else. I feel the responsibility to tell you something behind that picture. You know what I mean? And I think to an extent, that's why as of lately I've been semi-searching for somebody to take over on that aspect of social media, because I still want to be myself. But I want to be myself without it hurting the brand that was created for the sake of continuing to build this community. You know what I mean?
And exactly. And I think that's the conversation of boundaries. Like, what are your boundaries going to be, and what is it used for? It's like your social media account. You initially fitness. I mean, that's primarily still now fitness. I mean, that's so. But you give you're not just posting anything and everything on your social media account. You know what I mean? There's boundaries to, okay, that's what this is for.
Yeah.
But I think like if we don't have that conversation, even individually, corporately, depending on if you're an entrepreneur or whatever, it's going to get very difficult in the future. I think you're going to lose yourself.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what things are for. So then you feel fake if you don't show everything. But at some point, yes, but also no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like at some point you need censorship.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
This is why you don't have 100 tight close friends. You have one or two.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and there's a reason that they know things about you that not everybody knows, and it doesn't make you a fake person to have levels of friendship in your.
For sure.
I think having like a business account, I mean, that makes it really hard because you don't know, for instance, with like the Iron Bullies page or maybe just the Off the Leash page, like, I'm not going to be posting my life on there because that's more about like the business versus my personal account. I think it's easier because I'm just like, well, people, if they're following me, this is me. So if I'm not posting fitness one day and it's what I'm eating and I'm out at Disneyland or I'm doing something with my girlfriend or whatever, like it's me still, that profile is still
But that is also, I'd assume, is a difficult thing for you because you are not just a person, you are a brand.
True.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I can't just post anything.
You're not just you are you, and it is you, and it's
But
different than
you're
Iron
still
Bullies.
censored.
But you're still censored, and you're censored because you are your brand.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
100%.
Like that's the tricky thing I think for that we're dealing with, like the influencer culture.
For sure.
Is it's like, okay, I understand. Like it's easy to say Iron Bullies, here are our parameters for this business account. But then how do you? It's a little bit more difficult to draw those lines. I find that for me to draw those lines of what.
If it's anything negative, just don't put it out there. Because there's plenty of times where I'm, and I've talked to him about it, where I'm in my head and, something irked me or whatever. And I feel the need to like, I need to go speak on this and tell people and show, I know what I'm talking about or whatever. And then, he'll tell me like, don't do it. It's not worth it. Or, master your energy. Like, why put it out there? Nothing good is going to come from it. It's just going to be, you're going to say something and it's going to turn into this he say, she say type game. And then it's just drama. And then people are following you because they want to know what's going on in your life. And that's not creating anything positive. So I try not to put anything, I think a lot of people will open up on their social medias. They'll go through a breakup or whatever, and you'll see these posts and you can just tell with these posts, like it's very negative or it's very either putting up certain quotes or whatever. And I don't know. I don't think
you're going through something, bro.
I don't think all that should be out there personally. That should be something with your circle that you talk to them. And maybe a lot of people just don't have friends like that to talk to. I think
that's their outlet or something.
Oh,
or
for sure. Yeah.
Lonely.
Because I'm not laughing at people, but I'm
kind of laughing at them.
Yeah, but like, because it's just like, don't go that deep into shaming somebody. Let's say baby mama, baby daddy drama. Like, there's no reason for, let's say if you have 1,000 followers or 1,000 friends on Facebook, there's no reason they need to know this.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's not a good look for you. It's not helping people's image of you.
Because you think that's going to help you get anywhere? I mean, even the way the world is shifting, people are going to look you up.
Dude.
So if you apply for a job, luckily I don't need to work for anybody. But if you're trying to apply for a job, people are going to tap into those outlets, try to look for you and see what type of mentality or what type of person they think you really are. And if that's the information that is out there about you, what do you think their judgment of you is going to be?
And it only becomes a deeper and deeper file cabinet, so to speak, of what.
Sure.
It's like we were talking yesterday, Austin, about the Netflix special, The Great Hack, and they're the whole thing of like there's where we're going even with AI and things like that. There would be an ability for people to have more incriminating evidence that you were guilty of something than you would have to vindicate yourself of an accusation or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they know what you like. They know the type of animals the pets that you like. Exactly. Exactly.
Is that a bad look?
The foods, the cereals, you know what I mean? Like think about the things that they would know about, even in just the little things. You know, just the little things that are in the background of a photo, up on your fireplace, or the TV show that was on when you
That
were
if you
doing
were
a
to see it, you'd
video
be like,
about.
oh yeah, that's Austin. You that's him.
Yeah,
you fit
it
the
has to be him.
profile.
He was watching this and he was eating this. Well, that sounds exactly like Austin. You're like, no, it wasn't. But they would have more on you.
Oh, for sure.
That's to me, that's the dangerous thing. That's why I think like it's an important conversation for like this generation. And when I say generation, I'm saying anybody actively using the things and the mediums that we're using now to connect, which we need those things. But it's important that we see them for what they are and give them boundaries. Boundaries are what make things grow, make things flourish. If you don't have boundaries, it's a free for all, and it will be our demise.
Yep.
Something that was supposed to it becomes, you know, the baby lion that you think is so cute and innocent, then it grows up and eats you. Like it's the same type of principle. Like if you don't learn how to put it in an environment or put it in some sort of parameters where you can have its power under control, its power will dominate you.
So would you say you think social media like is out of control right now?
I think it is. I think it is. I think it's out of control because
How much worse do you think it can get?
Way worse. Way worse. The reason I say it's out of control is because I think anything that you don't have a conscious game plan to bring boundaries to in its infancy is already out of control. Big things don't start big, they start small.
Yeah.
So things that become powerful, they don't start big, they start small, and you overlook them because of their innocence.
That's real.
So to me, it's one of those things. Is it out of, it's already in the making, but we're overlooking it because of its innocence. It's just we're just connecting. We're just it's just Instagram. It's
They
just
have
Facebook.
access to this and that, and all
but
my
if you
pictures
exactly,
and, you know,
but Russia made the Face app, and they have your face, and like, but it's just a Face app.
and
know?
no one's even talking about it anymore.
No one's even talking, and we've moved on. But don't think that that's not that
It
went into the
happened.
file cabinet, and that happened, and that could resurface, and like, that's why I think like, I mean, it's in its infancy, but it's for sure. If we don't consciously evaluate how we're going to use it in our lives, it will use us and dominate.
For sure. I think that's why it takes a strong mindset to be able to be on all these platforms without necessarily caving to the pressure of, you know, whatever it is that people want from you, because it's like, what do they call those things that they can,
puppet master kind of thing?
Yeah. Like if you allow it to, it will.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Even when people have made fake accounts to attack us on Instagram, it's hilarious because it's just like, bro, you're that damaged that you had to first think about the process. You had to create an email, then create an account,
Verify the email.
to then go and leave this mean comment that you thought was going to hurt my feelings. But who's the weak-minded person here? Because all I have to do is block you. Therefore, you have no more access to me. And then you go back, create another email and another account just to leave another comment.
What's funny though to me about that is like right now you hear that and then we would sit here and be like, oh God, so silly. But in the future, I think that becomes dangerous.
Oh, of course.
Because those fake accounts get less and less fake looking. And when you actually, I say this about even like, if we're thinking that our next major war is going to be fought with artillery and things, I think we're missing it.
Oh,
I think
of course.
the greatest, if you want to see true demise, get into our banking system, get into like people's actual like lives through the use of technology and media. And it's game over if you're not ready for something like, even individually, just your mere innocence is vulnerable because of the silliest thing.
Oh, for sure.
So that's why I think just the conscious evaluation of what place does this have in my life?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think that you're literally setting yourself up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be too late.
Yeah. No, yeah.
You know, it really is.
No, for sure, for sure.
They even have like in your settings, you can see like the screen time that you've used like certain apps for or whatever.
That's
and that's
dangerous.
like, that's scary to look at.
Yeah.
Like how much you're on there and looking into things, and, you know, especially if it's just to follow people's lives. Cause I mean, for me, I'll click through people's stories and whatever, but it's not like you know, once I'm off my phone, I'm not thinking twice about like any of that really, you know?
It's a portal, you know, and I think that's like, what is it? It's a portal. you're looking into it like this. So is it a reality? Yeah. Is it reality? No. Mm-mm. But it is like a portal where people are going to continue to spend more. We're not going to spend less time on social media. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that the thing is to be able to create parameters for yourself to be able to function in a world that has no rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous. Yeah. There are no rules, really.
For sure.
You know? And then to think about, it's just a platform for a lot of different things. It's like,
well, I think that's why like these, not to cut you off, but like why these podcasts are important, because you're able to, you know, for someone who follows Edgar or you or me, they can watch this and actually get insight of like 100%. What's going on, you know, in our actual head and how we're thinking. And because through social media, you can't get that. I mean, even if you're talking to your camera, I mean, you have a 15-second clip and you do a couple of them a day. I mean, that's 45 seconds out of 24 hours. I mean, you know, versus you sit here for a podcast for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the case may be, and actually get to hear someone pick your brain and, you know.
Context matters. The intangibles sometimes are the thing that is most important. When you sit face to face and have a conversation and you don't just hear what they're saying, you feel what they're saying. You feel the vibe of how they're communicating it, the tone, the eye contact, all of those things help you rationalize and determine what you think about what a person is actually. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Was it because of the words that I said? No, it was how it was everything
through messages,
together.
You can't get. I remember my dad, like when he would start using social media or whatever. I mean, he's 54 and he would leave a comment and he would like tell me, and I'm like, I'd look at it. There's no emoji. So I'm like, that doesn't sound sarcastic. Like in your head, you thought that was sarcastic, but people are gonna read this like, what is wrong with this man? Like, you know. And I think that's a big thing. Versus, you know, for a lot of us, when you know, I think we, you know, grew up where you got your first smartphone or whatever, you know, and started texting, or we had to press the, you know, the 3 buttons for the certain letters or whatever, to what it's evolved to now. We've grown through that versus, you know, a lot of older people, for instance, didn't use any of that stuff. So then when they do download social media or use their phones, like they don't know how to do those things, you know, and that can be a problem as well versus, you know, being here. Because even people that feel comfortable to say something over the phone versus in person. Like I know Edgar can text me and say something and he's completely fine with saying that to my face. And I respect that, you know, because that's truly how he feels versus someone who hides behind their camera and says something, but then you see him in person and nothing is said. Like we're all grown here. If we can have a conversation through there, we can have it in person, face to face. There should be no difference.
Well, in a lot of ways too, I think that technology is a part of the dehumanizing issue. It takes away aspects of humanity that are important in understanding one another, important in forming empathy for one another, important for having compassion for your fellow man. When it's literally just visual, it's harder. So I think that you have to, that's why I'm saying like your mindset has to process the reality of what you're experiencing and not just almost like not consciously being aware of what's happening. Like I think that you have to stop and realize that there's a lot more going into it, and fighting for to me, that's the dangerous thing for context. Where is this coming from? It's easy to tweet. It's easy to post something within a certain number of characters, but man, are you really being productive? Like how much is that really, if you can't fully explain yourself, you know? It's like we were talking yesterday about the Rogan Sanders interview. It's like my opinion on that conversation is like, I think it's impressive how Joe is able to humanize people that the media wants to create as a certain, isolated person based upon sound bites that they take from the media. When you can actually hear somebody's thought process, it's like, okay, I don't necessarily agree with what you're necessarily saying, but at least, thank God, I can understand where you're coming from. Like I understand how you got there.
And how do you think Joe's able to do that?
I think that he's just
because he's him. And he's like built himself up to his own platform. Because I mean, if we weren't sitting here and Bernie was sitting in front of you, like how would you go about trying to, have those same conversations? And I mean, that takes skill, that's
no,
like
it takes mad skill. And I think it's listening and seeking to understand. I don't think that most people do that in conversation. Joe is a great listener.
Very rarely does he, even if he doesn't agree with what you're saying, very rarely does he might tell you that he doesn't, but he'll still logically think about it and ask you questions and try and get to that understanding. And if he doesn't, he's okay with that, but he doesn't hold that.
Or he wants to understand how you got there. You know, if you make a big, bold statement that is very forward, my question, okay, explain what you mean now. Now tell me how you got there.
Yeah.
I think XYZ. Okay, how did you get there? Why do we think that? How is that going to benefit this? Like, I think seeking to understand. I find, I don't know how you guys are, especially if I get heated in a conversation or in an argument, I'm not listening. We're not talking to understand.
No.
I'm talking to make sure that I'm heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, that's the difference. When you're engaging in conversation, my primary goal is to listen, not my primary goal is to be heard. Where the majority of times, do you ever notice this? And my wife, we've had talk about this sometimes. Like sometimes we'll want to talk about things that matter in a heat of an argument, but they're never going to be productive in the heat of an argument. You have to make time for productive conversation outside of the argument for topics that are not natural to talk about.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's always in the argument that, well, blah, 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 blah. It's like, what does
where did that come from?
that have to do with
Yeah.
have to do anything? It's like but that's not the time to discuss it in the intensity of your emotion because at that point you're not conversing to listen.
Are you trying to be happy or are you trying to be right? You know?
Right. And at that point you're trying to be right.
You know?
Yeah, you're not trying to. But that's why the importance of, again, the art of conversation. Joe's great at conversation. And what makes you great at conversation is being a good listener.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And trying to understand.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend Matt. He came into the shop a couple days ago, and I can't remember who he said it was, but I guess Joe did a podcast a couple days ago with some like female comedian that I think opens up for him or has done shows with him. And, you know, they sat down and started talking, and I think he said like 20, 25 minutes into it, Joe just looked at her and was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, why are you acting different?" She's like, "I mean, like, I'm on your podcast." Like, and she felt like super weird, but the fact that he was able to just pick up on that and be like, "Dude, you're not acting right. Like, what's going on?" And called her out in front of, I mean, who knows how many people are watching that at that time, you know? And it then like relaxed her, and he's like, "Dude, it's like a normal conversation. We've had plenty of these. I've known you for 8 years. Like, you know, it's crazy to think about, but I think that's why his has become so successful. And I think that's why he's successful as a person in general. He has a good understanding of how to talk to people. I mean, even his commentary through the UFC, he never, if you listen to it, he's very honest. There will be a time where another commentator says something, and he's like, "No, that's not what's happening." But the way he says it and puts it out there and his tone, and it's understanding. Yeah. You know, I mean, he's not trying to be right.
No. And that's, to me, that's the most powerful, because then it puts people in a position to actually look at themselves. When you're just peddling information and talking about concepts and ideas or being inspiring, to me, that acts as a window. You're talking through something. You're talking, the possibilities of what could be over there. My family could be better. My relationships could be better. My money could be better. Like all of these inspirational things. I think through conversation, when you're able to be vulnerable and human, it's no longer a window, it's a mirror. Yeah. I see a little bit of myself in your conversation about social media. Oh, yeah. I see a little bit of myself in my own journey when you talk about your struggle of being raised a certain way. And
as different as they can be.
As different. You can relate to it. And that's the thing. Whether you grew up in the streets or you grew up, not in the streets, there's themes that are so human that transcend the conversation of upbringing. That's like, that's me. I feel that too. To me, that's where the magic happens. Where we start actually realizing that we have more in common than we don't. Oh, yeah. We're sitting at this table. We may have different backgrounds or different things that we do. Guarantee we have more in common, though, than we don't. But most people talk about the things that you don't have in common. The 1 or 2, 3 things, 5 things, in comparison to the hundreds that you do, and you allow those 1 to 5 things to divide you, and we can't run together. Exactly. You know,
and I think that's why these conversations have to be had, because we could all sit here and talk about, what do you guys think of the Raiders next year, the Lakers, and that's small talk, but to actually dive in and hear, about certain things that maybe he's gone through that you and I haven't, or something you've went through that we haven't, I mean, it really opens your eyes to what's actually going on and how serious some things are. And it kind of not humbles me, but puts me in my place and makes me think like, okay, I don't have it bad, or I don't have it bad in that way. Right. You know, I need to be, you know, be thankful for the things you do have and, you know, the struggle you've gone through and the things you've gone through. But there's always someone who has it worse, you know, and I think not enough people acknowledge that, because if it's not happening to them, what does it matter? You know, and I think that's not a good way to really think about it, because there's a lot of people who are, you know, going through things, or, you know, growing up in bad environments that are hurt, and they don't know any better. You know, people blame, you know, if something happens or someone gets arrested for something, they're so quick to say, oh, they're stupid for doing that. But I mean, you don't know that person. You don't know if they were fighting for their life, if that's all they know. I mean, there's so many things that go into it that I think that's why these conversations, especially amongst us men, you know, need to happen. Because I think maybe women are different, and it's, I think they, you know, can open up and are okay with being emotional and things like that, but it's frowned upon for a man to talk about his feelings, or to get upset, or to, you know what I mean? Like it's definitely, and it's weird that there's that
or to talk about
stigma.
It is. Yeah. But to discuss ideas like struggle, to for a man to say, I don't know it all. What?
Yeah.
At least act like you do, bro. You know what I mean? Like in our world.
That's what's expected. You know what I mean?
I don't know how to change a tire. Yeah. I had to have him. I called him like, bro, I need help, man. I don't know what I'm doing. And he was just like, all right. He's like, I'm going to show you how to do it, though.
Isn't it funny, though, like how, you know, like I find myself the same way. Like there's certain things, carpentry things, cars, like I just don't know. Like I wasn't raised around it. I don't know how. But it's like, it's funny, like there's something in me that makes me feel less than for not knowing those things. Like,
for sure.
You can't just tell everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's a societal thing, because, you know, about 2 days ago, I had this conversation with my dad at their dining table at my parents' home, and I was telling them how people expect you to be good at everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like once you find yourself and you know what you're actually good at, you can do that. Yeah. Whether it's to make a living or to help others figure out the answers of their own wonders. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't quote something from the Bible, but I could ask you. Yeah. Or I could tap in to your podcast, or let's say you do a live event or something like that. But that's where I'm gonna find that spirituality or whatever. Or if I have a question in regard to, let's say a certain not a product, but something that's in a product that I'm just unaware. Let's say it has a crazy name and I've never heard it, but he just so happens to have the answer. Yeah. I could go to him and ask him, just like he could come to me and ask me how to change a tire or how to raise the little jack to raise the vehicle. Yeah. There's no shame in it. No. We're all brought to this world to be good at different things. Yeah. And until you find yourself and until you're comfortable with that, you're always going to be fighting. Yeah. Or you're going to be fighting this uphill battle, because everybody expects you to just know it all for some reason.
So if you look, I mean, from like maybe 50 years ago to now, do you think it's like a more, like we've progressed more as men to be open with who we are, or less? Because I mean, I think I look at myself and I'm like, if I was in the 1970s, like with tattoos all on me and my nose pierced and maybe doing my hair a certain way or wearing certain clothes that I wear, like, is that, you know, I think now it's a lot more accepted, I guess you could say, versus back then. But in other aspects, like, you know, if me not knowing how to change a tire, some, you know, 40, 50-year-old man could be looking at this like, what's wrong with that kid? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think we've progressed. I mean, for sure we've progressed. I mean, gosh, but I think you wonder then how much is real and how much is, I think that, you know, we're comfortable with those things. I think when it gets tricky is when it's close to home. I think people are okay with people being themselves, but when it's your son, your daughter, your family member, your mom, your dad, then I think it really shows how much we've grown or how much we haven't grown.
Oh, most definitely.
It's okay to be okay with the concepts or the ideas. I think especially now, probably that is like a benefit, right, of social media. The more you see, the more your psyche and your soul kind of becomes okay with what you see because you're familiar with it. Whatever you become familiar with, you become comfortable with. But it's still different than, okay, but it's in your family. It's in your, what about you? What about dad? What about you and your son? Like, I know that you think like we're good at communication, but I see like a lot of that guys that may be okay with, cool with their friends or cool with certain things. It's like, but you ignore your children. Your children don't have that space of vulnerability, So I think in some ways we're okay with it. Are we practicing it?
Exactly.
I don't know.
I mean, you've said it multiple times. I think a big thing is acknowledging as a parent. Like, there's times where he's told me, because I'm going to be a dad within the next couple months, and certain things he could say will really stick with me, and I think about him a lot. And him saying like it's okay to tell your kid you're wrong if you mess up and you do something and you were out of line. It's okay to look at your kid and apologize and say, hey, I made a mistake, and I think a lot of parents can't do that. Right. A lot of parents think I'm older, I'm wiser. A lot of parents think I'm the parent, I'm the one who's right. And I think that's just a terrible way to think, because if your kid can teach you something, especially when they get to a certain age. There's a lot of things they can teach you or things you might not know, even if it comes back to social media. And I remember my dad could ask me like, how do I post this? How do I, there's things you can, just because you're older does not make you more wise or more smart or not. You're not going to be well-rounded in every area,
I think that we have, especially in parenting, I think that parents are going to have to learn how to connect because they can no longer control. I think that in past generations, they've been able to control the input. I can control what you're seeing. I can control your friend circle. I can control who you're connected to. With technology now, you can't.
You can't.
So you're going to have to move from just that control thing to an actual coach in your kid's life if you're going to be successful at parenting. It's going to have to be more about just controlling the input because, dude, you can't control the input anymore. You think you are, but when they're in their bedroom on their mobile device, their access to a world and a social circle and interacting with people, but to me, that's the trap, is you think that you're doing it because you're okay with it. But if you're not aggressively finding ways to invade and to connect, you're going to lose.
It might be your kid making that fake account, commenting, and you don't even know because they signed out of it, or because they took the app off their phone, or because they're gonna outsmart you. A kid's gonna find out,
bro. Yeah,
we all outsmart our parents as kids, And so think of it. You take it now to the level it's at now. I mean, when I was still in, let's just say middle school or whatever, I mean, smartphones weren't even a thing. So I remember having to try and go on the browser. You had to pay. Yeah. So I even tried doing that. My parents got hit with $5 and I'm getting yelled at, $5, But to now it's the access is crazy.
They're messing with phones in their infancy. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
and a lot of it's to distract them and, make them, shut them up or
but what I'm saying, you got to parent, it's a portal.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah. It's bad. Yeah.
So, and I think that to me, that's where we're going. That is, I think that we've got, so to say, I think we've gotten better at conversation, but I think we've also gotten worse because we think that we're doing it because we're okay with it. So that, to me, that's the pendulum shift from, you talk about these families that are, gang violence and all that kind of stuff, which is still a huge issue and we have a long way to go. But I also think what is going to continue to be an equally as large issue is the parents who think their kids are okay and their kids know, and the kids know how to put on, how to fool mom and dad. But there's so much going on under the surface. There's so much because you're not talking, because they do feel the pressure.
Because they're just looking at the big things. What are your grades? How are you acting in school? Are you to class on time? Certain things like that. But you can be fooling them because you're getting the answers for tests and you're not even showing up. There's so many things.
And you know how to give people what they want because that's all what you've grown up in with social media has ever taught you to do. You know how to say fit. You know how to make sure the angle's right. Yeah. You know how to make sure that you find certain things and don't find other things because that's the world that you've grown up in.
Versus a parent just having a conversation with their kid and actually, if you're messing up, it's okay. Yeah. But let's get to the bottom of it. And,
we've learned, because social media has been brought in during our lifetime, we've kind of learned to, oh, we're not going to show our true self. We're just going to kind of portray. I want the good selfies. I want the good pictures. I want the pictures where my angle looks right and my physique looks right. So, but we've learned that. So we, in some ways, can separate us from that. My concern is for the people that are born into that. You don't know how to. You don't know how to separate the fact that what you're portraying isn't reality. It almost becomes like this innate second nature thing, which creates a whole nother. Spectrum of issues.
And that's where, you see like a lot of these, mass shootings or whatever happening. Like, I think a lot of it is like, do these kids not realize like this is real?
Yeah.
Like, this is like real life. When you do something like that, there is no going back. This isn't a video game. This isn't, you can't just delete that comment, like that just happened.
But and I think that those are the families, and that's the things that I'm concerned about, because it's all, do we not hear it more and more? I never would have thought they would have done this. Like they were they were just kind of like their own little, they were independent, or they were this, or they were that, or I would
always got good grades. Always.
Yeah. So like, it's like, high of them, And so I think that we can get a little bit distracted by a culture where we just promote activism. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, we do need gun control, and yeah, we do need activism, but why don't you go talk to your kid that's upstairs in his room? Exactly. You know what I mean? Why don't you get off Facebook and writing what you're writing and go play video games with your son or with your daughter, or take your daughter. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's that element of activism is important, but let's not forget that it's starting in our home.
Your kid needs attention.
It's starting in our friend circles. It's starting. It's starting here. Yep. You know what I mean? It's starting with your fellow man in your circle. Like, we need awareness, but at the same time,
you have to start at the core of it. Basically,
if we say we need change, well, then it sounds as silly as this. Be the change you want to see. Like, start with what you can control.
But it's true, yeah.
What do you do? What do you do with your friends? What do you do? It's like when in the conversation on racism. It's like, people want to have conversation about how we have all these racial issues and racial divide. I hope that we're also taking responsibility then to talk to our kids about racism. I hope that it's not just the black parents with their black children talking to their kids. I hope that the white parents are sitting down with their white kids and having conversation about how racism is a thing, and
it's very real.
Yeah, but if we're not a part of the solution, we're by default a part of the problem.
Exactly. 100%.
If we're not actively making decisions to embrace the tough conversations, we will be by default a part of our own demise.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, that's the illusion that we assume. That's why even think about the simplicity of the question that you asked. Do you think that we've advanced? Most people would say, well, that of course we've advanced. But to stop and think about it, we've advanced in some ways, but in some ways our advancement, if we don't deal with it right, can be our demise.
Because at the very base, the only thing that has changed is elapsed time. You know what I mean? Because if generations, let's say I come from a background or a family that shows hatred towards a different color, race, whatever, religious belief, and I show that to my children, that's going to continue.
It's going to carry on.
That's not progress. That's elapse of time and generations just practicing the same thing.
And it comes back to, just because maybe I don't experience it, in a certain way, like hearing stories from other people, where they are looked at a different way or treated a different way, thankfully I'm, smart enough or aware enough to realize wow, that's real. I haven't had to go through that, at least so far. But when I hear stories like that, it's it's just crazy to me, especially because I never grew up thinking that. I never grew up with any type of racist behavior or anyone that was racist or anything like that. And so to hear that those things go on, when I, first, became aware of it, it's just crazy, because I thought, oh, we're past that.
Yeah.
And we're not, nowhere near it,
But we're not. And I think though that it's going to take people that are, removed, or I just think if African Americans, black people are talking about racism, if Hispanic culture, people are being, it's like in the shooting, right, recently that was obviously racially motivated. I think that people who are a part of different ethnicities can't just acknowledge that there's a problem. I think they have to participate in the solution. What I'm saying is I think that white people should get upset about injustice as it pertains to Hispanics, African Americans, just as much as the people that are experiencing if we're going to forward this, we got to do more than say, oh, wow, it is an issue. And we're going to have to start talking to our kids, to our friends, educating ourselves like we actually care, to actually participate and saying, hey, this has to change. And as someone who may not be a beneficiary or somebody who is experiencing the prejudice firsthand.
But what can we do?
I can fight against it, and I can acknowledge. I'm not just going to say it's a problem. I'm going to fight to be a part of the solution. You know,
for sure. Because even, speaking vice versa, let's say a Hispanic person was so upset that they in return went and retaliated. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. You know what I mean? So it's opening the doors for conversation.
And it really, you're right, Edgar.
So I think for me, at least in my home with my child, whether it's the wrong or right way to approach it, because I don't think there is a right way or a one way to approach the topic. We have taught her, look, you treat everybody, everybody the way you would want to be treated. And the crazy part is that what I'm teaching her is what I felt as a kid. And I know that for a fact because I heard my dad, as a kid, making certain remarks towards a certain group. And for me, it was like, I don't think like that. I have friends that are Asian. I have friends that are black. I have my best friend in 6th grade was a white kid with red hair. And so I was very diverse in my thinking. And I just wanted to hang out with these people. I didn't see the difference in pigment. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying my way of seeing the world is the ideal way. It's just that's how I felt. If I saw injustice in front of my eyes, I wanted to do something about it. I remember being 12 years old and moving into our new neighborhood, literally maybe the first day or second day of living in that neighborhood, me and my sister, which is the oldest of the girls, we went to go play in the playground of the elementary that I went to for 6th grade. And some Asian kids jumped this white kid for his bike. I saw one of the Asian dudes drop kick the kid. And I didn't know what to do, but I ran over and I was trying to help the kid out. Yo, are you all right? I know they jacked you for your bike, but are you okay? And he just got up and was just yeah, man, I'm fine. And I walked with him back to his house because he lived in the same neighborhood at the corner house. And I saw how upset his dad got. So they jumped in the truck and probably went to go find those Asian kids or whatever. But in my heart, I was just man, that really sucks. You know what I mean? Because we literally just moved to this neighborhood and these problems exist in this area, which I thought was a better area than what I previously experienced. But it doesn't matter your location. The problem is the problem. You know what I mean? So being able to identify it, talk about it, and try to find some type of solution to persuade more people to do the right thing. You know what I mean? Treat each other well.
Well, I think hate, the idea of hate, prejudice.
Oh, for sure.
All of those it's rooted in pride and ego. Really. The idea that I'm superior because, or I need to hold on to my sense of superiority because.
I mean, it's silly when you really think about it.
It's so silly. And the cure is even a reoccurring theme in what you're talking about with business or whatever, the vulnerability thing that we're talking about. But it's this sense of humility. I don't have it all together. I'm not superior because of anything. Where I grew up, the money that I have, the skin color that I have, the parents that I have, the parents that I didn't have. Those things don't make me less than or superior. We have all been given different cards. We were dealt different cards. We don't know the answers as to why. And we should say we don't know the answers as to why. But what we do know is that we're all still on this journey trying to make sense of what we were given, and knowing that one thing that I've been saying lately is where you end up in life is not going to be determined by what you've been given. So where you go in life will not be determined by what you've been given, but where you end up in life will be determined by what you do with what you've been given.
And a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah.
Because too many people will use that as an excuse to not work hard, to not do things, to...
Well, the bottom line is none of us chose the hand we were dealt.
Exactly.
If it was a good
your
hand,
dad's a billionaire,
you didn't choose that, and there's different issues that are going to come with that than someone who didn't have anything. Nobody chose, but we can choose what we do with it.
Exactly.
We can choose if we're going to turn it around. You know, you see people that have money. The fact comfort in their life has made them complacent. Has made them, because they've had everything. They will never have anything more than what they've had. They'll never achieve anything. They'll never find that because there
was no struggle there.
There was nothing. There was nothing in. It's like limitation creates space for innovation. If we don't have limitation, there's no problems to solve. So to me, that's the beautiful thing about humility and vulnerability. What you're acknowledging is I don't know it all, which means, okay, then now we have space for innovation. We have space for new ideas and new things and things that can make our life better. And hey, I can give you some advice and you could give me some advice and we could have conversation about what we learned, because that limitation that we're willing to admit is there, which nobody likes to do.
Yeah.
Literally created a space for us to move our lives forward. But if we're not willing, humility, vulnerability, I don't know it all, if we're not willing to start there, there'll be no change.
Oh yeah.
Whether it be racism, prejudice,
Anything.
business coming, there really won't.
Yeah.
Like those are the fundamentals of becoming great.
And I think that's why it's good to just be honest with people and be open about whatever it is. I mean, I know for us with the new pre-workout coming out, we had, we anticipated it to come a lot earlier, and we had, a lot of problems with manufacturing and communication, just a lot of things that people don't see.
Yeah.
And, me sitting there and just keep telling people, oh, just 2 more weeks. And then 2 weeks comes and it's not here. And, just don't worry, things are still great. Like people would come in and I would just be honest and say, look, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, this is why. And we're doing trust me, we're doing our best every single day to get it here as soon as possible. And, a lot of businesses, for instance, will just try and play that everything's going great and they have everything figured out and they have a formula that is going to make them millions of dollars. But I know for us, it's every day, it's something new. We're learning something. It's trial and error for us, I think. And I think we're just willing to fail. Because, we've had the conversations of, if everything went downhill tomorrow, if we lost everything, if nothing sold, like, we're just going to move on to another idea.
Yeah.
Or we're going to try again. Or we're going to sit down and reevaluate what we did and what we did right, what we did wrong, and start again, And you have to be okay with that because nothing is forever. We could have a pre-workout and it'd be great next year. By next year, we could be selling hundreds of thousands a month. And then it's this big thing. And I'm thinking, oh, my life I'm set, I'm good. And then a year later, you know what? Pre-workout, we found out there's new studies. It's terrible for you. Right. We can't. It's illegal.
Yeah.
Then what?
Oh yeah.
If I didn't adapt, if I didn't innovate, like you said, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I now have nothing. So I think that's why it's important to constantly be thinking and thinking about new ideas and jumping on those ideas, because you're never gonna really know until you try.
Well, it's like the companies that never thought that digital film would become a thing.
Yeah.
Where are they? Because you didn't. That's not going to be a thing. People aren't really going to be into that. It's not really going there. Well, it went there. So if you're
look at taxis with Uber. Right. Look at hotels with Airbnb. Look at the Walmarts and the Targets with Amazon.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere. Yeah. And I think that should be a wake up call to a lot of people of as if. Whatever it is you're doing right now, it's silly to think that that's what you're going to be doing a year from now, 2 years. It's you always, because if you got presented an opportunity or one of these guys got presented an opportunity to, hey, Joe Rogan needs someone to, they would be silly to not jump on that. Yeah. Right. Of course they want to do what they can for you, but they have to go do what is in their best interest and what can then further them into.
You guys leaving me for Rogan? Gosh.
They didn't tell you, man.
First flight out. Take the first flight out of here. See you never. Right? Get out of here.
No, but that's just the truth.
But it is the truth.
That's why you have to work on yourself first too. You know what I mean? Because it's not the ideas that are going to make you, it's you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because who would have thought Nike would have been one of the most explosive brands in the world?
Yeah.
You know, I've made silly posts before in the past saying, you know, Iron Bullies is the Nike of Fresno.
Yeah.
And that's just me being that confident that I'm going to push the line that hard. Whether it becomes a thing or doesn't, that's just me convincing myself that that's how much I trust myself in working towards it.
Yeah.
Because if I just say those things and then go take a nap for a week and not try to make any progress, is that going to become my reality? Probably not.
And I think that's why there is a lot of support too, because I mean, since I've known him, I mean, pretty much every day I see him, he's wearing one of his shirts.
Yeah.
I very rarely have seen him in just like any other brand shirt, but I think that's important because you never know who's going to see you that day. You never know who you're going to run into, and that's something that I've picked up on too. Because even I can be at the gym and a guy come up to me like, "Oh, you're that Iron Bully guy," or something like they'll say anything like that, and it's crazy to me because people affiliate you with that, you know, and it's important to really stand behind what you're doing, you know, not just saying it, but actually doing it. I mean, that's like us making a pre-workout and never taking it, you know? I mean, I tell people, especially with the new one that came out, that it's not my ideal thing. You know, I'm not into the super strong ones, but I know that there's a market for it and that people wanted that. Yeah. Am I going to take it every now and then? Yeah, I took it yesterday morning, and it's, you know, a little too intense for me, you know, but for a lot of people, it's going to be what they want.
People admire that, though. And I think that that's, you know, another thing you keep saying. There's something about, I think Craig Rochelle says something about like people would rather follow a leader that's real than one that's always right. Like I think that there's something inspiring about someone that says, here's where we're going and here's what I have conviction about and what I'm like passionate about, but I don't got it all together. So don't think that I do, but come along for the ride. You know, you can be a part of this journey. And I think if people can feel a part of things, even if they're imperfect, you have much greater, I think, buy-in in the end. And you have that thing that, for lack of a better term, is somewhat cultic. It's that energy. It's that thing like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves that gets pioneered.
And your credibility goes a lot further too. I mean, there's plenty of times people come into the store and ask me about a certain supplement and what it does, and I'll explain to them, and I can tell when they're lost with what I'm saying. And I'll say, look, I mean, if you don't want to spend this money, you know, and you think I'm not being honest with you, take a picture of this, go look up everything that's in it and research it and make that decision yourself if you think it's for you. But from the information you've given me, this is what I think is good for you. Yeah. And that's just me, you know, and a lot of people I think appreciate that because there's times where I've not turned people down, but you know, a kid can come in and want, hey man, I just signed up for the gym. How do I get big? And I'm like, dude, you go work out first. You know, like I'm not, because I remember being
oatmeal and egg whites.
Yeah. Son. Oh yeah. No, but I remember being that kid and not knowing and thinking, okay, I'm going to take all these supplements and I'll just, as long as I just go to the gym and do something, and then I'm not going to worry about my diet or, you know, if I'm drinking on the weekends or, I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. And I would rather people, especially a kid that doesn't have just all this money to just dump into everything. I mean, if that's their last $100, it probably doesn't need to be going towards a protein powder, you know, or creatine or whatever, you know,
because at the end of the day, like our business is what we always agreed on is it's a luxury to take these supplements. You know what I mean? Because even though we want to sustain keeping the doors open to provide opportunity for employees to work there, to then hopefully grow it to another location and what have you, honesty is the first, you know, how people say honesty is the best policy. And it's just the truth because, you know, you could very well walk into a different supplement store. We won't throw any names out there, but they'll corner you. And you originally went in there to spend $20 and now you have a $300 tab. And instead of paying for it with your debit card, now you pull out the credit card. And is that the right thing to do? I mean, you as an owner should have some type of value moral to compass. Say, like, is this the right thing to do? You know what I mean? Because that pressure is going to be so heavy on that person and you now place the burden on that person
Yeah.
that they won't have a reason to want to come back.
Yep.
I would much rather have 1,000 $20 transactions than one $200 one.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with the brand, because I remember, and to this day, my intention is the same, is to continue to create a community within the atmosphere that we live in, whether it's Fresno, the Central Valley, the gym, however you interpret that. That's what I want, because even people who think I'm tripping because I'm thinking too big for what they look at my brand as, like, dude, nothing good has come out of Fresno because of that simple mind.
Yep. It's a mentality,
And
right?
I'm going to continue to push for what I believe in, to see that other kids get inspired through what I have achieved.
Yep.
Whether it's me that makes it or they surpass me and make it themselves. Hey, if I planted that seed in that kid that made it out of here and came back around, and let's say they built a center for troubled children to go play at or go do their thing at, that I planted that seed.
Yep.
I'm going to feel good about that. It doesn't have to be me, but that is one of my intentions. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that too many people are lost in what we're trying to achieve here. It's not to be the best looking. You know what I mean? I'm 32 years old. My body's going down the drain.
Yeah.
You know, the more calories I ingest, the fatter I'm getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every time I wake up, I feel like I look older. That's just a part of life. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
My thing is, other than the physicality part, how am I impacting my community on a mental aspect with higher vibrations? Because everybody wants to talk that way on social media.
Right.
Everybody, positive vibes. But what are you doing?
Yeah.
A post isn't going to do it.
No.
You know what I mean? Because your aura in person is sad.
Yep.
You're not actually putting out that energy when I see you in person.
It's true.
Reverse. You know what I mean? Do it the reversed way.
Yeah.
Actually live it without having to post it so much.
Yep.
So you could actually impact everybody who you come across.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know people are gonna leave a comment or say, you know what, I've had interactions with Edgar. He's not really like that. Maybe you caught me on a bad day.
Yeah.
And if you did, I apologize.
Yeah.
But I could do that in person.
Yeah.
I have no problem. We don't have to be keyboard warriors. Honestly, I'm a grown man, so I can tell you if I messed up, I apologize.
Yeah.
At the same time, I could tell you to your face if you're annoying me. And that's just me being honest, because there is people that I can't stand just based on the fact that they tell you their game plan over and over and over, and they never do anything about it.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's just me being honest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have the courage to actually put it out there and be like, you know what, man? Come on. Let's go do some of this work that you're talking about, because I'm tired of hearing your mouth just yapping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to start up a company? Here, put $300 to the side for your design. Let's go buy you some T-shirts. Let's print them.
Yeah.
It's about $8 a shirt. You know, let's start selling them at this price point. Because at the end of the day, even when they're done, if you're not willing to embarrass yourself a little bit,
risk.
you know what I mean? You're not going to make it anyway.
And if anybody in our world, anybody ever in the existence of humanity has, shouldn't have room for excuses, it's us. You know, like I was talking with somebody about, like, even like starting a business. Used to, it's like, well, how do I do that? You had to go, try to have face-to-face meetings with people that had done it. Now you can just look it up online and figure out how to do it.
Literally
like,
go to Google.
Literally.
And it has, like, it doesn't even take you to a website. It
Just
pops up
right
like step
on-
1 through 8.
On
It's
Google,
like, oh wow, you
Yeah.
know. But people think, I don't know if they think like, well, that's not real. It was too easy.
I
Like,
think
no.
that it comes down to our fundamental addiction that we have as a society, which is to comfort. And I think that anything that infringes on our comfort, we become opposed to.
Why do you think people continue to buy book after book after book, watch podcast after podcast? because they want to delay the process of getting to the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like me, I would love to sit down a day and watch all your podcasts, because I'm pretty sure there's information in there that I could digest and be like, oh man, that healed me spiritually, or that helped me understand this topic. But at the same time, that wouldn't help my process.
Yeah.
If I just sit there every day delaying my own process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is why I preach what I preach.
Yeah.
I mean, even Austin, when we came up with the idea for the pre-workout, both of us had gotten approached by the same person, and it never happened. But I think now, knowing this information, that life was waiting for us to meet, to create this thought, to then executing on the idea.
Yeah.
Because I remember the day that I made up my mind, you know what? I think Austin's smart enough to pull this off. I don't really know anything about pre-workout, but I have money saved away.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I drove to my bank in Lemoore. I pulled out my half of the money and I dropped it off. Here's my half. Make it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was literally a snap
did it.
decision.
But in our world, we just live high on inspiration.
Yeah.
And it's like inspiration doesn't actually lead to transformation or like change. At some point, there has to be that application part.
Yeah.
Inspiration, application, transformation.
Oh,
but if you don't apply, then we just, let me repost that inspirational quote.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Because people don't see the rejection or they see the stuff that we post where people are supporting us, and thankfully we do get a lot of support. But I mean me and him have talked, and we're working on helping grow it and get it out there to more people and get more accounts with it. And it's not easy. A lot of these companies don't want to work with you. They don't see what your product brings to the table. They don't think it's worth what you think it's worth. I mean, people just don't see what really goes on behind closed doors. It's not just you make it and then everyone wants to buy it. Because I mean, even you saying earlier, like, your close friends and family, you rely on them to support you, whatever. A lot of them don't even buy it, A lot of them they don't. And I don't take it personal, because it's not my business if they can afford it, if they do like it. I would rather them just take it. And there's times where I, like, hey, come get a free sample. Yeah. And someone won't even come and get that and give me feedback like, hey man, that sucked. It was not good. Because that's more valuable to me than you not taking it.
Yeah.
I would much rather, me give you a scoop of it and you say, you know what, Austin, like, it's not for me, man. Like, maybe some people will like it, but it didn't react well with me. And I'm just being honest, I think, a lot of people just, I don't know if it's they don't want to support or they don't believe in what you're doing or whatever. But I think those are things that, we have to persevere through and have to know that that's just part of the process, and not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to want to take it, but we have to do the best we can on, putting it out there and spreading it and seeing that me and him aren't the only ones that think that this is something great, know?
Well, we could talk forever, so we'll wrap it up. How can people connect with you, though? They're listening. What's the best way? Just shotgun what you got going on.
No, most definitely. So you could definitely catch us on Instagram at official_iron.bullies. Okay. That's the account that I mostly use. It's the most active, constantly designing, pumping out, content, constantly trying to evolve the brand. So, people don't have a reason to not support and not say that it's up to par with whatever you'd be able to purchase at a Zoom or what have you. But, there's plenty of goals behind it. It's at a very preemie stage in other people's eyes. We've achieved a lot, but like I said, we're just getting started.
Good.
Follow me at 2aesthetic_.
Do people ever just call you 2aesthetic when they see
you?
Yeah. Like, I feel like I do that. Like with people, like it's like I know them by their Instagram name.
It's funny you say that because real quick, when I was in high school, I don't know what went through my head, but my Twitter name was just, my first and last name. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to make it something cooler than that. And I thought of 2aesthetic. So for what, I don't know if it was like 2 Chains or something. It just like popped in my head, but it was TOO aesthetic. And then, you know, when we started doing the pre or whatever, you know, Edgar would tell me, you need to brand yourself. Like, don't just have your boring name, you know what I mean? Like, brand yourself. And so I was like, well, this is my Twitter name. And then my graphics guy, I told him, but he put the number 2. And then everyone, you know, in my circle that I trust, you know, they're like, the 2, it looks cooler. It looks cooler. So I was like, all right, I'll do the 2. So I already requested it. Like, I already made another Instagram and put it under that. That way no one could take the name just in case I waited too long. And then I switched mine to that. So
aesthetic.
Yeah. And then you can find our pre-workout. It's at Off the Leash pre-workout. It's pretty easy. But
and then what if Off the Leash pre-workout is the
Instagram.
So like if people are out of state or whatever and want to get their hands on it.
Yeah, I mean the link's in my bio, the link's in his bio, the link's on there. If they're in Fresno, Elev8 Sports Nutrition, GB3 North, off of Shepherd and Cedar, so they can come there and even get a sample of it if you don't want to buy it. But yeah,
buy it, you guys buy it. We pay full
it's the
price.
Best.
You know what
it's
I mean?
the best.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And happy birthday, Nipsey Hussle. Today's his born day, and that was one of my many inspirations, and missed plenty. And yeah, man. The marathon continues for sure.
Well said. Way to wrap it up. Marathon continues.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And thank you, guys.